Hey, everybody, come on in. Hello, hello, hello. Just give me 1 second to share this out. As you are coming in, guys, please let us know where you are tuning in from. Let us know, rep your city, your state, say hello so that we can properly introduce ourselves to you and we can also properly greet you. On in, share it out, share it out. We have an amazing discussion today, and I think it's one that's pretty relevant. A lot of people actually deal with this low key, not really knowing what's going on with them. Sometimes, they get wrong advice from people, or, people just try to say something to push their feelings under the rug. So if you are dealing with anything that you feel like is keeping you from moving forward, then this might actually be the talk for you, okay? So come on in, guys. And before we get started, I want to introduce myself. I am Monica Matthews Smith. I am owner and founder of Rich Chic 360. And welcome to the Rich Chic 360 Life and Business Talk Show, where we talk about building your startup business, increasing your wealth, and maximizing your purpose and potential using real life strategies and faith-based principles. Okay, so if you have not yet liked our page, go ahead and hit that like button and follow us just so that you don't miss any information that can be useful to you and your business. Or maybe you don't even have a business, but you are into personal development. Roll with us, and we will definitely, I'm sure, have some tools and resources that you can use. So without further ado, guys, I see you coming on in. Again, thank you. As you're coming in, share it out and say, hey, let us know where you're coming from. But without further ado, I want to introduce my very special guest. She's my friend. I think she's an amazing woman in business.
No.
She's an amazing woman in arms. And she'll talk about all of that or some of that, but I'll give her, just the time just to kind of give her bio, or just to kind of tell you a little bit about who she is and what she has going on. And then we'll get into the discussion. So Lenita, thank you, sis, for coming on in.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's a blessing. I know I was on before, but I wanted to make sure that I came in to give more to the discussion when it comes to our topic, what we're going to talk about today. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you for allowing me on your platform.
You are welcome. Thank you for coming on in. But so, Lenita, before we even get into the discussion, for those who might not have caught your interview or my interview on your page or whatever, give us a little bit of a background of your business, your Facebook groups, just
Okay,
kind of
cool.
what you have going on, sis.
Sure. Thank you again, sis. So, for everyone, thank you for joining our live or watching the replay broadcast. So, for those that don't know me or new to me, I am Lenita Cornett. I am the founder of Purple Camouflaged Mentor LLC. Purple Camouflaged Mentor LLC is a life and personal development coaching and consulting practice. And my focus, a lot of it is dealing with thought work. My modalities is, of course, spiritual practice, but it's neuro-linguistic programming, and a lot of that is mindset reprogramming, and also with positive psychology, which is pretty much what I got certified in for life coaching as well. Those two modalities. So I actually started the business roughly over 3 years ago, and still serving active duty in the military. So I have 24 years in the military, Army, U.S. Army. Thank you. And so I started the coaching practice with Monica, because we were actually in coaching with seven-figure coach, Don. Look, I'm about to say her name all wrong. Danielle Winningham.
Yeah.
We
Coach
actually had
D.
our, yeah, Coach D. For those know her as Coach D, we know her as Coach D. And so that's where my journey started, because I just had this yearning to want to do something more outside of my profession. And so I wanted to do something that I love doing. Um, and helping women overcome obstacles that they're dealing with in their life. And so that's where uh, Purple Camouflaged Mentor was birthed. And
Okay.
so with that, again, it goes back to personnel development coaching. So the areas I focus on perfectionism, but it all going around wellness, overall wellness and resilience, emotional wellness, because again,
Okay.
everything we do, what we think about, affects our behaviors, and it also impacts what we do with that. So that's either action or inaction. So it's
Mm.
imperative, for me to actually um, share those things with my communities. And so I've had several, and I've had to archive a lot of Facebook groups. So the Facebook group that I do have now right now is Soulful Boss Chick, and I
Okay.
did change the name a little bit. So it's Soulful Boss Chick, creative and courageous women. And the purpose is for them to love, lead, and learn. And so I
Wow.
wanted to change that because for us as women, and not only women, because I don't want to feel like I'm excluding men out of the equation, but
Right.
my surface base, I serve women, but it's to show women to have that self-worth for themselves. And it
Mm.
goes with, you got to go within. You got to love yourself in order to show love to someone else. And then you also have to lead. Leading, you have to love the individual, and it's not
Right.
about being in love with them, but actually showing care, concern, genuine concern for them, so you can take
Right.
care of your team. And then actually learning, life learning processes, or life learning, our life learning journey is learning something new, because as long as we have breath, we should always want to strive to learn and be better versions of ourselves. So
Right, right. And I love that you said that, as a leader, you need to also not just learn how to lead, but you need to know how to lead properly, right? And then, and it comes from doing the inner work on yourself first, because how can you lead
absolutely.
if you aren't able to, just, I guess, tap into what's going on inside of yourself, and just to kind of help to not heal, but to just get past whatever can be stopping you. So I love that,
Right.
which is actually a great segue into our conversation today, right? And I also love the fact that you have a lot of um, intuition, experience, background with the whole personal development, with the life coaching, because a lot of people don't realize that, yes, we can work on, our daily obligations, our daily grinds, our businesses,
Right.
our families. We can work on our jobs and careers, but it's really that self development, that personal development, and taking the time to deal with issues, right? Things that we
Yeah.
have going on in order to be like the best versions of ourselves and to live on purpose. So, we're talking today, guys, about perfectionism. And so I'm going to ask Lenita, so based off of, just your own personal experiences, sis, like,
Hmm.
we know that everybody kind of has their own perception and definition of what perfectionism is. I know I had my definition, but then after kind of talking, with you, has kind of changed that. How would you define, in your terms, and what it meant for you, perfectionism, aka the imposter syndrome?
Yeah. So I've actually had like different definitions, and I had to do my own research and everything else.
Yes.
But I had to make something that made sense to me.
Okay.
And so, because I want to give you another definition once I give you my own definition. So,
Okay.
my personal definition, I would just say this in layman's terms for anyone, is when you have that thing that you're doing and you're focusing so much on the small details.
Mm-hmm.
You're focused so much on
Mm-hmm.
the small details to where that thing hinders your health, right?
Wow.
So you're not you lose focus of nurturing your mind, body, and spirit because you're so focused on the small things. So an example of that would be, um, you end up having a high standard about something that is really not necessary, but you put it on yourself to do.
Okay.
So I decided I want to lose 150 pounds. So in order for me to lose 150 pounds, I need to make sure that I'm eating healthy 7 days out of the week, and I need to do X, Y, and Z. I mean, I'm just giving you an example of
Right.
that.
Right.
It's just being excessive. And for me, it was workaholism. That's what I was doing. I felt as though in order for me to be successful, I have to work hard. Work
Okay.
hard to define to me was always doing something, challenging myself for the next level,
Okay.
and doing it to a point where it was excessive,
I
where
see.
I was working harder, working too many hours because I felt like I had to do that.
I
And
see.
so that's where it led to, I mean, I pretty much was a workaholic my whole entire career in the military until I had to do the inner work with that. So, but yeah,
Okay.
that's my definition. So I
Okay.
wanted to share another definition
Yes.
from Dr. Rose Shafran and
Okay.
Sarah Egon and Tracy Wadden, which is the Overcoming Perfectionism.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure anything that I do, I always want to have some research behind it or
Right.
evidence. So their definition is perfectionism is a setting of and striving to meet very demanding standards that are self-imposed and relentless pursuit despite this causing problems. It involves basing one's self-worth almost exclusively on how well these high standards are pursued and achieved.
Wow. Okay.
So, yeah, so for me, my self-worth, I focus a lot on my failures and my achievements, and whatever I failed at, that's how I felt about myself. And so a lot of things I put on myself was all self-imposed. It wasn't now I've had failures, but some of the
Right.
things that I put on myself was made up.
Wow. Wow. And so now, what would you tell somebody who might feel like, well, I know I have insecurities, at what point does it become the fact that it might not just be like, oh, I have an insecurity in this issue. It might be something a little deeper. What would you say would kind of be that moment that you would urge somebody to just maybe look a little bit more into how they're feeling in that area? Like, you see what I'm
I
saying?
would, yeah. So I, for that, because everybody's different. I would first ask them if someone came up to me and mentioned that, because everybody has insecurities, but the thing
Right.
is some people ruminate to where they worry about it. When you're constantly worrying
Mm-hmm.
about something, you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Well, where is that worry coming from? You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And
Good.
where is it coming from? And what is the effects of it when it comes to your body? If you're
Mm-hmm.
anxious, stomach aches, headaches, this excessive nausea or whatever.
Right.
And is it all the time? Is it, you know what I'm saying?
Good.
It's
That's
those type
good.
things to be mindful of when it comes to checking in on your body. And a lot of
I see.
times when we're in our grind with our 9 to 5 and it's like, okay, I got to get this done, I got to get this
Right.
done, we ignore those things. I used to have stomach aches and headaches a lot when I was younger, in my 20s,
Okay.
in the military. I used to anxiety is one of the things that I've had, and I've learned to manage. It's never been severe, but
Right.
it's always been to where I would be worrying about something that's not in my control.
Right. Okay.
But I
Okay.
try to put control in it. But that would be what I would definitely ask an individual, because of the simple fact that if you're not in tune with what's going on within, you're just going to continue to keep going, and then
Yes.
it's just going to get worse and worse. You know what I'm saying? So um, personally, for me, that's what I would actually ask them to do.
Okay. Awesome. And so, what is that resource again, so people can write it
Oh,
down if they
so this I don't know if you can see. So it's,
overcome imperfectionism? Okay.
yeah, Overcoming Perfectionism. This is one of the books that I want to say this was a few years ago, maybe 2 years ago, that I actually did my own personal research. I actually started doing more research in the area of perfectionism once Coach D brought it out of me.
Okay.
Once she brought it out of me, I wasn't done. It just touched the surface,
Okay.
and I had to go further into it, and I didn't do that until maybe a year and a half later.
Okay.
And so that's when I actually hired or invested in a spiritual mentor to actually help me in the process, because at
Okay.
times some things are not as severe. You can self coach yourself,
Okay.
but reality is, if you know that you need more help and this is really impacting you in other areas of your life, to include your health,
Right.
I actually wanted to seek that assistance. And plus, mind you, before I invested in a spiritual mentor, I had a therapist
Okay.
for like 2 years, and it was never about perfectionism. It was about other areas, but if I go back to the sessions, it was in
Right.
reference to my perfectionism. But
Mm.
of course, with therapy, they're not going to actually go into that area unless you say what it is. I didn't know what it was at the time. So
I see.
um yeah, so that's when I went more. It wasn't easy. It was tough.
I'm sure.
and
Yes. I'm sure.
and that's the reason why I actually I wanted a spiritual mentor to guide me, to help me through the process. And so it's a life journey for me. I'm good at one moment, but as soon as I have another level, I have to
Right.
go through another process. So yeah.
Right. Right. You said a couple of things that really stood out. One, I think it's really important that people understand, especially Black women, understand that when you feel like you need to to reach out and get that help, it's okay to get that help, right? It's okay to see a therapist. It's okay to, get a spiritual mentor. It's okay. I think a lot of times society has just put so much pressure on us, not only just as women, but I
Yeah.
think particularly as Black women, we're supposed to be the stronger ones, right? Holding up, you know, our families, holding down our communities and things like that. And so oftentimes when we talk about going outside, like doing things other than just, like just praying about it or talking like to your family about it. When you talk about going to go see like a therapist, or even if it's a counselor, whoever, sometimes those things are looked down on. And so I'm so glad that you said that, because now I've had to work out some issues in myself. I had to go see a behavioral therapist. Well, was she a behavior therapist? Well, she dealt with like cognitive behavior, like just
Yeah.
like retraining your mind and your thought patterns, because I had some just some insecurities at times that were blocking me from moving forward, things that go way back into my childhood. So
Yes.
um
Yes.
so I think it's very necessary that women understand that it's okay to receive and accept the help, and be okay knowing that it doesn't make you weak, it doesn't make you any less than. If anything, it makes you stronger because you have the tools and resources to move forward when you get the help that you need, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you
So
said something good too. You mentioned about receiving. See, you got to be in a space to
mm,
be ready to receive. If you're not
mhm,
ready to receive, then the doors won't open for you to actually get your self discovery.
mhm,
You're not going to be ready to receive it. So you have to put yourself in that state. And so it's not going to be pleasant all the time,
right,
because you're going to have to face those things that you never wanted to do, that you avoided.
right.
You know what I'm saying? So the things that you avoided, you're going to have to deal with it
You're gonna have to do it.
in order for you to move forward. You're going to have to. So, and you don't have to do it alone. That's the beauty of it. You don't have to do it alone.
Love it. So now if somebody is watching this, and you mentioned how Coach D helped to kind of bring it out of you. If somebody is like, well, they feel like this might be something that they're struggling with, um, but they don't have anybody kind of around them, how can they come to their own like discovery, or what steps maybe should they take to go a little deeper, or find somebody who can maybe help to identify, okay, this might be what you're dealing with as far as.
So, well, perfectionism.
Yes.
So,
Uh-huh.
there's so many things that with perfectionism, you know what I'm saying? So I just want to make sure that I do a disclaimer. I'm not a doctor. I don't diagnose anyone. I am a life coach. So I help and
Okay.
guide and teach and mentor those that I'm here to serve when it comes to wellness and resilience. And so um, that's what I want to say foremost. So if someone really is struggling with perfectionism, they may not even know what it is for them because it's the norm. It's something that they've
Mm-hmm.
done, you know what I'm saying? So I'm talking to the adult that actually has been living life. They don't even have to live life as long as I have. I'm 42 years old, but someone that has been living their day-to-day life and constantly on the grind and is always wanting to achieve something greater than what they did already and constantly. So
Right.
one thing I do want to say, there is nothing wrong with achieving anything, right?
Right.
It becomes an issue when you actually start ignoring your health, when
Mm.
it becomes a health issue. That's why I want to make sure that I say that, because individuals may not know they have perfectionism. It could be procrastination, you
Right.
working on projects and you feel as though you can't get it right, or
Right.
you end up procrastinating because you feel like it's going to be time consuming, so you choose not to do it, and then you wait to the last minute, and then
Right.
you have a mediocre product because you waited to the last minute, and it all stems back to your confidence in yourself saying you're not good enough. And where is that coming from? So I would just say I would invite anyone, because you don't perfectionism is a spectrum. Some people
Okay.
have it, it's really small, and then some people it's like it's severe for them. And the
Okay.
meaning is because it's some inner work that they have to do. And a lot of times it takes therapy, it takes spiritual mentors, it takes coaching and
Okay.
different phases of what they're going through. And some just go through it their whole entire life because it's worked for them because they're always successful.
Right.
But
Right.
there's other aspects of their life where they're not happy,
Right.
but they're getting money, they're making money. So
Right.
it pretty much is up to that individual. What is it costing you is the first thing
Mm.
I would ask an individual, you know, that's dealing with it or doesn't. If they don't know what it is, we already provided a definition. I've given you a definition by 3 doctors that said what it was.
Right.
um, so if there's some things that you feel about yourself, you know, what is it costing you, and how how much or what are you willing to do to change that?
Right.
You know,
Love it.
that's pretty much the bottom line for someone that really wants to move forward. Those are the first things that I would say is what is it costing you, and what is it going to take for you to change?
Okay.
Because those are things that you have to do on your own. I can't make that choice for you. You'd have to make that choice. So if it's costing you your relationships, what
Right.
is it going to take for you to change that? And what do I mean by that? Workaholism. You're not spending time with your kids. You're not spending time with your spouse.
Mm.
You're not having those quality relationships or those conversations. You're
Mm-hmm.
spending so much time on projects where you feel like, oh, in order for me to be successful, I have to move away from my social life, or those type
Mm.
things. Um, that's what I mean by what is it costing you, right?
Okay.
You have to be the bigger person because no one can do it for you to say,
Right.
what am I willing to do to change? That's the first step, right? That I would tell anyone to, if they're willing to. And one of the things I would say, we have a lot of influencers. I follow a lot of the influencers. I love Gary Vee. Um,
Mm-hmm.
he mentioned something a day or two about perfection, where he said perfectionist, you're not a perfectionist. It's you're scared, something like that, right?
Right. Right.
And to a degree, yes, but that's the surface. When you actually start pulling the layers back and people are doing the inner work, then you realize where the actual, because a lot of people say, oh yeah, I'm a perfectionist. Okay, that's not really great to say that you're a perfectionist, because
Right. What's the core?
you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
like,
Right. Right.
but for our society, it's a good thing. Like, oh yeah, yeah, individuals are perfectionists. They strive for for perfection, okay, you should be striving for excellence, not perfection, because
Mhm.
no one's perfect, okay.
Right, right.
But that's the thing. So I just want to say that when we say that, we're just touching the surface. Like when it really starts to
Mhm.
impact your day-to-day life, that's when you really have to look and say, where's this coming from and what do I need to do to change it? So I just wanted to say that.
Okay, cool. And I love it too how, like, I've heard the term, perfectionist just thrown around like it's nothing. And I think too, sometimes people would say, oh, it's just, oh, she's just being a perfectionist, or oh, he is, kind of like downplaying like what the real issue might be. Like, this person might have a issue to where their perfectionism is interfering with their life. Like, they might have it, but I think society just has a way sometime of like taking these terms and just using them so nonchalantly that it's not really something that people will be triggered to look into, just because we hear it so jokingly. And like you said, some people can live life and cope with it, and just work with it or work around it, and
Hmm.
some people might struggle in different areas because of it. So if anybody is listening, if anything that Lenita says resonates with you, contact her. She can share with you her experience. She's a life coach. She can share with you some strategies maybe that can help you just kind of work through, or whatever the process is that you might need. Contact her, and I'll make sure that her information is in the comment section at the end. But it's a real thing, guys. Like I said, I've grown up always hearing the term, "Oh, that person is a perfectionist," but I never knew that it was something that could really be, what's the word? I guess that can really keep somebody stagnant in their life. I just thought, like you said, oh, they work hard, but never knowing that that could be like a detriment to somebody. So while we're kind of in this lane, what type of behavior patterns would you say might be associated with either what you experienced in your own journey with perfectionism, or just even in the resources that you have read? What type of patterns might be there that if somebody is listening, they might be able to identify some of these things within themselves?
Yeah. So some, is pretty much what I experienced too. And then the resources actually, they give you a different definition or a meaning to it. But like procrastination, or like I mentioned, um, ruminating, where you're worrying about something that's true, like I'm a failure, to where you end up thinking about that to where it hinders you with actually getting something done. So that's why I
Mm-hmm.
gave you the example already for that one.
Yeah.
Then another one is, let me see, to where you're like, I don't want to say, how can I say this? Busybody, you just a busybody because you just want to seem like
I know what you're talking about. Yes.
you just you gotta stay busy because you want to give the perception, or you want to that you're successful because you're constantly
Mm-hmm.
doing this and doing that, but some of the stuff is not serving you anymore, but you're still doing it because
Mm. That's good.
you want self-validation, you or not
Yeah.
self-validation but validation from others.
Mm-hmm.
You, instead of you seeking it from within, you're seeking it from other people, so then you end up people pleasing. I mean, all this stuff stems around perfectionism, people pleasing, uh, not limiting your expression of how you feel about something based
Mm-hmm.
on other people, how they feel. You don't you pretty much downplay how you truly feel to make them happy.
Okay.
Doing things for other people to where you're overcommitting your time and energy, but you're avoiding the stuff that you need to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just like I
Wow.
mentioned, about lacking the self-confidence in yourself and your self-worth, and
Mm-hmm.
looking at all the things that's happened to you to say, you're not worthy. So if something good happens to you, you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm an imposter. I don't deserve this because this happened to me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So those are just examples of it, but there's so much more. But
Right.
I like to give examples of my own experience because
Right.
it hits home for me, and I just wanted to share that.
Love it.
Other perfectionism things, like I can just give you an example. You could be like, I've had emails that I've had to send, and it took me forever to send an email because I want to make
Mm.
sure that I read every word, I
Yeah.
don't misspell anything. If I
Right.
say something wrong, how are people going to see me if I say one word wrong? Instead
Right.
of it being a 5-minute email, it's like a 30 to an hour email.
I see. I see. I see. Just trying to make sure everything is just right.
And so my thing is, it's like, what I really want to say, that there's nothing, I'm gonna say this again, nothing is wrong with striving for excellence, right? You want to make sure you dot every T, or cross every T and dot every I.
Right.
That's what we do with our profession. Whatever your profession is, you're going to do those things, right? There's
Right.
standards and policies for everything, right?
Right.
It becomes an issue when, again, when it starts to overlap and hinder your health,
Mm-hmm.
where you have like I talked about before, you have anxiety, you have the stomach aches, you have the headaches, you're anxious, you're depressed. There's
Mm-hmm.
other things that's going on with you mentally, your mental health. That's
Mm-hmm.
where it becomes detrimental to you. So those are just some examples that I wanted to share, because that's happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
Another example is, there's been plenty of programs that I've wanted to do for my own business, and I had to do an assessment and say, okay, is this what you need to do right now? So that's why I had to do a shift in
Okay.
my own business. But I've compared myself to other people. Again, I'm, going back to, I'm not worthy to do X, Y, and Z because I haven't achieved this. So you know what I'm saying? So those are some things I've had to really reassess myself and actually take a look at. You know what I'm saying?
So stop right there because that brings me to our next kind of point. So self-worth relating to perfectionism. How do those two connect? How do they interrelate? I mean, like you touched on it already, but just kind of go a little bit deeper on how do you view self worth relating to perfectionism, because so many people have issues in that area. And I know that you know um, self worth concerns, I guess, can show up in different ways, but as far as perfectionism, kind of take us, how does that show up in that area?
So, okay, so self-worth, this is how I look at it. Self-worth is pretty much your self-esteem,
Mm-hmm.
your esteem or how you feel about yourself, so some people have false esteem now. They think
Right,
highly
this
of
is true.
themselves, and they are not doing that's narcissism. That's what I call that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but to me, it's, we are our worst critic. And when you are self-critical of yourself, right, that's where it connects with the self-worth, and that's where the perfectionism comes in, because it also ties into the definition that I mentioned, when it comes into where you're looking at your achievements or your successes or your failures to define who you are as a person. Just because you failed at something does not mean that doesn't mean that you're not a great leader. Doesn't mean that you
Right.
are a great mother. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has mishaps. Things happen. You make mistakes. We have setbacks. Life happens. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But that doesn't define who you are. But
Right.
when you actually use those things as a definition of this is who I am, that's where it becomes an issue, because now you are you're saying that you're not enough,
Mm,
and no one is perfect. Again,
mm,
no one is perfect. Everyone has flaws,
right.
So you know what I'm saying? So it's that's where it connects. And that's where you have those striving so hard for perfectionism instead of excellence.
Right,
Again, nothing is wrong with that, but you always want to put your foot forward. You want to do your best in anything that you do, but
right,
it should never be to the expense of your health. You know what
right.
I'm saying? It should never, your mental health or your physical, mental health, or your spirit, anything of that nature. So,
Right, right. And for my entrepreneurs who are watching this, I want you to pay particular attention to as to how maybe some of these signs or these behavior patterns can show up in your business. So, Lenita, now you touched on this also kind of in your conversation, but if somebody, well, okay, so from your experience, since you're both a entrepreneur and you have experience with perfectionism, in your business, like just in general, not even with your groups, but how has it kept you from moving forward at times when you really felt like you wanted to get something done? I know, like you talked about the emails, but just in your business, just how has perfectionism impacted that in the past?
because I know we had during the Lenny's coffee and conversations, we mentioned destinies for a little bit, but we really didn't go all into it. So, and it also impacts life as well. So I would say there's like a disconnect. For me, it was a
Mm-hmm.
disconnect because um, I invested in coaches, when I first started in business, and I continue to invest in coaches, but
Mm-hmm.
it was just this language of you should do this. You should do this. You need to do this. You need to do that. You know what I'm saying? So you're doing these things. Here I am doing this. Okay, that's not working. You need to do this. You need to do. Okay, that's not working. Then it's like as I'm doing it, then I'm feeling like I'm being like bullied because it's like, okay, I'm doing this. It's not working. Does not mean it works for your business. It didn't work for
Right,
mine.
right.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking at this, something's wrong with me
Mm-hmm.
as
Mm-hmm.
as a business owner, when
Right.
reality is that strategy does not work for everyone.
I
You know
got
what I'm saying?
you.
And
Mm-hmm.
so that pretty much really was a major concern for me when in my business, because I feel like I was just going all in, like it's all or nothing. Like I need to get this done. I need to do this and I need to do
Right,
that, and putting
right,
all these rules on myself. Like you said, you should do this. Okay, I'm gonna do this, and I end up
right.
working all these hours, spinning my wheels, and I'm like, okay, it's not
Gotcha.
working.
Yes. Right, girl. I know I've been there. I have been there.
And so
I ain't
I
going
just
nowhere.
you know what I'm saying? And so it was just like, okay, I was like, this is not gonna work for me. This right here is not gonna work, because reality is I'm not a full-time entrepreneur.
Mhm.
I have a career, and I have my coaching practice, but this is not something that I can do. This business model is not gonna work for me. I have to reevaluate, slow down,
Mhm.
and do the things that matter the most to me. You know what I'm saying? And this is a process. It's not an event, it's a process. And
Yes.
so I really had to do that. Now, did it happen overnight? No. Monica knows how long we've been. Oh,
Yes, girl.
and so I
Something.
share that with you all because it's been I was searching, like literally searching for mentors in the arena of perfectionism. When I started to
Okay.
once Coach D mentioned it to me, I started looking for communities of like-minded individuals, so I could be like, okay, what is it that I need to work on? What is it, I need help with this. And it was just not, I had to take a step back and say, oh, you know what, just, calm down and relax a little bit,
Mhm. Mhm.
be gentle with yourself. And
Gentle.
I had to be gentle because I was very hard on myself,
Mm. Mhm.
so that's pretty much what I would, in a nutshell, I would say, as far as how it impacted my business, because there is business relationships that I was getting into that I shouldn't have got into. Had
Okay.
to learn my lesson, but it took me a long time to learn it because of fear of failure. I feel, okay, if I
Mhm.
if I stop my relationship with them, this is going to fail. How are people going to look at me? I'm going to be embarrassed, and all this, happened.
And that brings me to something that I think we talked about this either on your show too, but in relation to purpose, how it's okay, like if you feel like you're going in one direction and or you feel like, okay, this isn't it, it's okay to make that pivot. But like you said, sometimes though, and just given from your experience, when somebody might be dealing with perfectionism, they might stay on the path just to make it work, even if it's like, a dead end. And I can see how that can get somebody off course with their purpose too, right? And then of
Absolutely.
course, like if you're off course with your purpose, that starts a whole nother inner like discourse, or inner turmoil, because now not only I can see, and I'm just speaking from, not only are you trying to make something work and like you're getting frustrated because it's not working, but then you might be lacking just inner satisfaction with that thing as well. So I can kind of see how it can just get to be in a place where it's just not a very happy or fulfilling state to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's where a lot of my destinies came in. I didn't realize it at the time,
Okay.
but it didn't make sense. I'm like, okay, how am I saying I want this, but my mindset is completely different.
Okay.
And we talked about this briefly in Lenny's carving conversation.
Yeah.
So you can't. So for a lot of mindset coaches, they don't talk about it as much now because I guess of realization of you have to understand what affirmations are first of all.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So speaking those things as though they were is actually believing it.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So you can't be a believer and say, I believe that God, I know that God has, he's promised these things in my life. And then your mind said, I'm a failure.
Right.
I'm not going to achieve. That's the dissonance. That's the disconnect.
Yes.
And so then your actions, you end up doing stuff that just makes no sense in your business.
I see.
But yet and still your mindset is, okay, I want to be successful in my business. I want to have so many, I have this goal to make 6 figures in X, Y, and Z time period, not in 90 days, by the way, but in so many months or whatever.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you're constantly, you're having a realistic plan rather than something that's excessive and unrealistic.
Gotcha.
And so, you know what I'm saying? So it was something that I had to go through, and I really had to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't what I wanted to do initially, but I knew that it was the best for me.
As far as like getting the resources and the tools to help you move forward,
getting clarity, because I was doing things that was getting me off track, and I was not focused on my bottom line, exactly what I needed to do as far as having the proper planning and preparation of things that I want for in my business. So some of the things that I want to do, it's like, okay, well, you're going to have to really reassess and say, what is it can you do right now based on your lifestyle right now? What can you do? You know what I'm saying? And not necessarily just what feels good to you, because some things, when you're really serious about business or serious about your career, being uncomfortable is what's going to make you move forward, not comfortable.
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the thing about it though is accountability. It's not necessarily about what feels good to you,
right,
but it's what's right for you, what lights you up, but more importantly, what's serving you right now.
Yeah.
That's what's going, and it might not, what's serving you right now may not be comfortable because it's taking you out your comfort zone, but
Right.
it's only for your good, and it's only going to make you a better person. And it may not be something that you want to hear at the moment,
Right.
but it's what's necessary for your health, your mental health, nurturing your mind, body, and spirit, those type of things.
And like you said, like growth isn't always fun. It doesn't always feel good. So, just taking that step sometimes, like you said, I mean, just gathering from my conversation, it sounds like the first thing that somebody might be, who think that they might deal with or have patterns of perfectionism is just to one, do just like a self identification, like just maybe like just kind of like a soul search, right? Like just kind of stop and just kind of reassess. Like you said, are my behaviors keeping me from really getting the things that I want? Even if I'm doing, are they productive behaviors, or am I just doing it because I feel like it has to be this way, it has to be perfect, or I
Right.
have to make it work? Um, and then once they identify that, okay, I might have something here that needs to be reassessed or readjusted, then maybe seeking out some more support from, like you said, maybe a therapist or a spiritual mentor or counselor, somebody who has knowledge and or experience with it, who can help you kind of dig a little deeper to find like the core of where it started, right? Because like you said,
Right.
I mean, right, because like you said, it's just, I mean, it's just like anything, like even low self-esteem, that's not like, that's just the surface. It's like, why do you have low self-esteem? Why do you have
Yep.
perfectionism? Like, what happened? What event? What mindset? Whatever happened? So somebody who is qualified to help you kind of dig deeper, and then just being accepting into, or being in acceptance of wanting that change, or wanting to embark on strategies that can help you move forward regardless of how uncomfortable it might be, right, in the
Right.
moment.
Right.
And so I'm sure now though, after like you've kind of gone through your training or gone through like your process, even though it's an ongoing process, but just even starting your initial journey into, well, would you say management of perfectionism,
It's
or
definitely management. It's definitely
okay,
management, because I would tell you that there's no cure for perfectionism. So it's
okay,
management. You know what I'm saying? This is not it's not an illness or anything like that. It's just
right,
it's a behavior. And so it's a behavior that impacts your thinking. It impacts your behavior, your actions, or
right,
inaction. And so also with that, when it comes to um, just look at your habits too. Your habits will tell you a lot about where this is coming from. You know what I'm saying? Look at your habits. Look at how you talk to yourself. um,
mm,
and a lot of individuals talk about narratives. That's what narratives are. What are the things that you are speaking to others or speaking to yourself in
mm-hmm,
literature, whatever? What are those things that you're speaking to yourself? You're saying, I'm a failure, I'm not good enough. Those are the main ones that a lot of people, they say, or your belief system. A lot of it comes from childhood, I would say, for me, because our families, it's nothing bad or anything like that, but it's just culture.
right,
The way you were brought up,
right,
how what your family thought about money impacts
right,
how you think about money or how you
yes,
respect money. You know
yes,
what I'm saying? Or relationships,
right,
communication, how you speak to others. And so the
right,
same thing about yourself. However you saw your mom or your father, value themselves is how you feel like, okay, I should do that. As you grow up and you change those narratives because you want a life for yourself and you want to change certain things about yourself.
Right.
But it would be, what are those things that you're saying to yourself? What are those beliefs that you have about yourself? So a simple belief could be, I feel like I have to work hard to be successful. Well, define what hard is.
Right.
Define what that looks like.
Good.
And then the second thing would be to challenge that. Is that true?
That's good. Oh,
You know what
that's
I'm
so
saying?
good. That's
It's
so
it's
good.
it's you're constantly you have to be constantly um looking at the narrative that you say to yourself, and then just work to reframe that. What can I say to change that? It's not to say something that's off the wall,
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying, that's not true. But if you do believe and say that, I believe, in order for me to be successful, I have to work hard. Okay, well, if you change that and say, I believe for me to be successful, I must stay committed in doing X, Y, and Z. You know what I'm saying? It's
So you're
realistic
putting
things.
a descriptor onto it and making it more
Yes.
specific. Right. Right.
And it becomes more personal to where it's achievable, it's attainable. You can actually do it. You can
Right.
receive it. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
so it's something that you always have to, like I said, it's a lifelong journey. And sometimes it's easier for some people because of their mindset, and they program themselves to think differently. But some individuals need more work. And
Yeah.
as you move up into the ladder of success and you do other things, then of course you have
Right.
to reassess. But it's that constant reassessment, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay. We're all human.
And I think too, I mean, that's good. That's good. And I think too, a lot of ideals and things in society don't make it easier, or for people to be truthful with themselves. I think like there's a lot of pressure in society to be perfect, right? Social media is notorious for people putting on facades, putting on a front just in life in front of people, but then behind closed doors, suffering in silence.
Yeah.
So I know that, just media, the TV and pop culture and, all of these, I would say, avenues and filters that are telling us we have to look a certain way and act a certain way, and we, like, if you show any type of whatever, then like you're not going to be accepted, like,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
like
Yeah.
you mentioned family. And yes, I think it definitely starts in the culture, in the family culture, in the home. And then I think, and then once even outside of that, then it's society that helps to perpetuate some of those things. But so if you're watching this, and if you are being, if anything that Lenita has said has kind of touched you or resonated with you, or maybe, so something that she might have said has you looking at yourself in the mirror, pay attention to that. And then again, either reach out to her, or we broke down just a little bit of a sequence of, if you feel like this is something that you might be dealing with, who to kind of reach out to get the support that you need. Because Lenita, you mentioned in our talk off camera that, like, you're in a high performing male dominated industry, right? In the military. And so I'm sure that doesn't help your need to feel like you have to be on point every minute. Like, oh,
That's that was my life majority of the time since I've been in the military. And I just got to the point where I was like, reality is, I had to really look within first and say, okay, where's this coming from?
yes,
And reality is, if I make a mistake, I can't make the same mistakes, what I'm saying, as a leader. But it's really accepting who I am. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to change who I am because of who this other person or appear, how they feel about me.
Right,
You know what I'm
right.
saying? I refuse. I did that when I was younger, but as I matured, um, it really was. I had to stop with the people pleasing.
Yes.
And
Right.
the people pleasing for me was just over committing and saying yes to everything. Yes, I'll do this. Okay, I'll do this.
Okay.
And not all of it focused solely on military projects, but helping with mentoring and all that, but just outside of my own organization. So I was willing to do that. It's just that it got to the point where it's like, okay, when I need support, you know what I'm saying? What's going on here? But I'm overcommitted to everyone else. I got to take care of
Right.
myself too.
Right. Right. Right.
So,
Love it.
yeah, yeah.
Love it. Love it. Well, again, I think this topic and discussion was truly needed. Especially at a time like this, like, in the middle of this pandemic
Yeah,
where people's normal is being totally altered. And as you said before, like, sometimes perfectionists, I'm sorry, have a hard time pivoting if they're going in one direction. And what we've just seen in the world lately with all the corona and all of the racial, and just our society has just been kind of tossed up and down. So there's a lot of just emotions and feelings, and not saying that this is mental health, but just things that pertain to emotions and
yeah,
behaviors, are being challenged. And so some things people might have dealt with, and just have put on their back and kept on trucking with when life was going as it was. Now that things have been kind of altered and we even had to like stay in for some time, people are being faced with aspects of themselves that they might not have had either the awareness or the energy to just
yeah,
deal with up until recently. So somebody might be suffering in silence with this. So I thank you for coming on and just talking
yeah,
about this, just putting it out there in the open for our communities, which are mainly women, and those who are faith-based and entrepreneurs, because again, women, we're known to be the strong ones, the nurturers, right? We take care of everybody else, but we don't sometimes look inside of ourselves and identify what could be keeping us from our purpose, right? What could be keeping us from our greatness? And we definitely need that. We
yes,
definitely
yes, we
need
do.
to know what's going on and how to get the resources when we need the help. So I don't have any questions here on the Facebook. If you guys have questions, and if you're watching the replay, thank you. Thank you for those who have watched us and have joined in. Leave your comments down below. I will put Lenita's information in the comments section. So go follow her. Stay in tune to her community. She has amazing resources and tools, for other women, other leaders, other boss. Well, I don't want to say
Soulful
boss
Boss Chic.
chicks. Because like sometimes people like, I'm not a chick. I mean, but I don't,
Exactly.
I don't, I don't want to offend anybody, but if you are a boss babe, how about that? A boss babe, definitely follow her, guys. And again, guys, thank you, Lenita, for coming on in, sis. Again,
Absolutely.
thank you for just sharing with us your truth, right? Your
Yes,
truth,
yes,
your testimony, and then also your service to help those who might be in need of, the areas that you help people work through in your life coaching practice. So, with that,
absolutely.
guys, if there are no other lasting words, Lenita, that you want to say to the people?
Yeah, I just want to say on this journey, it's self discovery, and just know that you're not alone in the process. Don't be afraid to ask for help so that you can move forward in whatever that endeavor is for you. Don't ever be afraid to ask for help.
Love it. All right, guys. On that note, we will see you later. Peace, love, and God bless.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.